Welcome inside Gillette Stadium, everybody. My name is Mike Petraglia, joined as always by Patriots expert columnist for WEEI.com, Christopher Price. All right, it's take two with the Buffalo Bills in 2015. The first take came out pretty well for the New England Patriots as they were able to walk away with a 40-32 win back in Week 2 at Ralph Wilson Stadium. Chris, that is a game we were both at, Ryan Hannibal was at, really wasn't that close.
Yeah, it really wasn't. And a lot of that yardage that the Bills picked up in the second half, a lot of that, those yards on the ground that they were able to get, I think they need to be taken with a grain of salt. You go back and you look at the yardage that they were able to accumulate. They ran the ball to get back in the game. They were running against a very light box. The Patriots are obviously playing a lot of prevent defense, looking for them to throw to try and get back in the game. And ultimately, the game was a little bit closer, maybe on the scoreboard, but really that was not an 8-point game. That was a double-digit win for the Patriots. So it's going to be interesting to see this time around how things are different for both sides. You have to imagine the Bills are going to change things up a little bit defensively, maybe change things up a little bit offensively as well. There's a lot of time between this game this weekend and Week 2. So it's, teams always evolve and change and grow. It's going to be interesting to see what the Bills have decided to do.
Yeah, and it should be noted about that game, the Bills did get the ball back, I believe, 37-32, but couldn't do anything with it, and the Patriots were able to add yet another Stephen Gostkowski late-game field goal and really put the game away. All right, let's fast forward to now Week 11 as the Patriots are 9-0, trying to go 10-0. And, you look at this Buffalo Bills team, and I know you wrote about this on WEEI.com, it really offensively starts with their running game. Shady McCoy is really starting to show why the Bills went out and made the trade with the Philadelphia Eagles. And then there's Carlos Williams, the rookie out of Florida State.
They do a great job running the football. And again, I don't mean to completely diminish the accomplishments of what they were able to do against the Patriots on the ground last time around, but this is a really good team when it comes to running the football. They're really consistent. They're second in the league when it comes to rushing. LaShawn McCoy is obviously a huge part of that. If you're looking to prioritize the Buffalo offense, if you're New England defensive coordinator Matt Patricia, you're Bill Belichick, you want to focus on stopping the run. Look, Tyrod Taylor does have some options in the passing game, but I wouldn't be surprised to see the Patriots stack the box this week, look to jam up LaShawn McCoy. He's a very dynamic runner, real playmaker. He's the number one option for them in the offense. Yeah, offensively, what they want to do.
And he is the kind of guy that if you let him get outside, he's not a pure stretch runner, but he can do damage just because he's got that kind of speed. We talk about their passing game, and Tyrod Taylor, and Matt Patricia talked about this on the conference call on Tuesday. He said that he has a very strong, underrated arm. He can obviously hurt you with his legs, but if you get focused too much on containing him or worrying about his run game, he can beat you downfield.
They are a lot like, when they're at their best, they are a lot like the 49ers of a couple of years ago, and that's not completely coincidental. Offensive coordinator Greg Roman was with San Francisco when Colin Kaepernick came of age with the Niners a few seasons ago. They had that really powerful offense. They had a quarterback who could make some plays with his feet and also deliver a nice ball. They had Frank Gore in the backfield. They had a lot of different options in the passing game. This team bears a striking resemblance when they're clicking, when they're doing things, when they're executing the way they should be executing. This offense bears a striking resemblance to what they try and do. They're not able to be as consistent as that offense was, but at the same time, those are certain things you have to look for. I remember talking to Rob Ninkovich in Week 2 before the Week 2 matchup and said that they went back and they looked at some old film, some old 49ers film. Just, things to consider this week when you're talking about a game plan to try and slow down this Buffalo Bills offense.
Defensive side of the ball, asked Tom Brady this here on Wednesday about when you put up 466 yards like Brady did on their secondary and their defense back in Week 2, are you assuming that they're going to change things up and you're going to get different looks? And he said, well, that's interesting because you don't know what they think that that they know, is one of those circular revolving explanations. And it was humorous, but yet at the same time, Brady brings up a good point. How much does Rex really change? His secondary is healthy or healthier. Leotis McKelvin is back, the veteran corner, now really playing a lot of safety for the Bills.
Yeah, it is. And there is not just a level of familiarity between the Patriots and the Bills, but there's a level of familiarity between Tom Brady and Rex Ryan. These two have faced off frequently over the last 5, 6, 7 years. And so there's not much that either one of them can do that can surprise the other. And I think that's really kind of what Brady was getting at. You don't want to overthink this too much, really. You want to play to your strengths. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Patriots end up throwing the ball a lot, even with Julian Edelman out. They only ran the ball 15 times the first time they played. I think if you're looking for historical comparisons here, I think that's a fair one to make, even though in that Week 2 game, that was LeGarrette Blount's first game back after that Week 1 suspension. I still think the Patriots are going to try and spread things out. This pass rush is not as good as it was last year. They've suffered some they've suffered some injuries. They made some interesting personnel shifts. I don't know if I completely agree with them if I was a Buffalo Bills fan, but I do think ultimately Patriots' recipe for success here, spread them out, go for a wide, even without Julian Edelman. I think there are going to be serious advantages in the passing game for New England.
We've been doing this so long, Chris, you must have read my mind, because that's exactly what I was going to ask you. You're talking about Mario Williams and Jerry Hughes, two great pass rushers in their own rights. They only have 3 sacks apiece. Marcel Darius, he came back against the Patriots in Week 2. He really hasn't been a huge impact in terms of really disrupting the opposing passing game. They have 14 sacks. Their opposition has 27. Really, what gives?
Now, you look at that in putting together the game preview. You also say, well, the Giants only had 10 sacks coming into that game, and they did a good job getting after Tom Brady. I think the key for them is to hit the guys off the line, something that the Giants did, and to be able to really disrupt the timing of the New England passing game. The other thing, too, when it came to the New England passing game against the Giants, they didn't have Julian Edelman. And now for a large chunk of that game, and I think that was one of the reasons why Brady was forced to hold on to the ball probably a little bit longer than he would like to on most occasions. So, it's one thing to say it, but at the same time, it's a whole other thing to try and execute it. I think that the Bills are going to try and take some of the elements, what made the Giants successful against the Patriots. Of course, that being said, Brady still threw for 300 yards and ended up putting together the game-winning drive, where they won. So you got to kind of take it all with a grain of salt. I think that what Buffalo needs to do, they need to get physical. They need to be able to find a way to get pressure on Brady, get pressure on that offensive line, and not give up too much in the back end.
If we don't talk about some practice squad transactions, I fear that Christian Fourier is going to march right down the ramp right in front of us and kick both of our rear ends. We have to talk about Joseph Fourier, who has some NFL experience, came up with the Detroit Lions, and you saw him in the locker room, Chris, and you saw him joking around and kind of making himself right at home just on the first day here in New England. He came in for a workout with the Patriots on Tuesday. Belichick was even asked by Mike Reese, what it was like to work him out and see another Fourier in the fold, and he said, well, it's not a good sign. It means I'm old.
Yeah, he is going to bring some depth to that tight end spot. Right now, he's a practice squad guy. But he's a guy that they have on the roster. He's a guy that they have in the building. He does have that pretty extensive, a year plus in the league, and one of the things that really distinguished him when he spent that time with Detroit was the fact he became a really good red zone target. He became a really dependable red zone target, 8 touchdown catches in a relatively brief time in the NFL. So it's going to be interesting to see if they decide to bring him up to the 53, how they end up using him.
I'm not as worried about Shane Vereen, though I probably should be. We should definitely mention Shane Vereen. Obviously Joe Fourier is Christian's nephew. Brock Vereen, another familial tie here at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough with the Patriots. The younger brother of Shane Vereen, he has also been signed to the practice squad. What can you tell us about that move?
I think right now, if you're handicapping the two, I think Brock Vereen has a better chance to make an immediate contribution at the NFL level than Joseph Fourier is. Brock Vereen is a defensive back, does have some positional versatility, was working out with the cornerbacks today, has played safety before. I had a chance to speak with him at the Combine a couple of years ago when he was a collegiate. Very impressive young man, very smart. It's clear. Look, I'm a Shane Vereen apologist. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree in that situation. They're both really smart, talented guys. I wouldn't be surprised if Brock Vereen was on the roster, the active roster, the game day roster, sooner rather than later.
Not very pleased that Ross Perone had to be shown the door, but we'll get to that. Villanova alum, that storyline, and obviously Ray Ventrone couldn't keep little brother around, couldn't convince Bill Belichick to keep him around. He was one of the players released off their practice squad to make room for those moves. Also, I think we'd be remiss, Chris, if we didn't mention David Ortiz being mentioned by Tom Brady here. He was asked about just the thoughts of David Ortiz retiring at the end of the 2016 Red Sox season, and he said it'll be sad to see him go. What I really wanted to ask Tom about that is, do you think when a guy like David Ortiz retires, it starts the wheels churning just in the slightest for Brady?
Yeah, I do. I think he has to think about his own athletic mortality. Look, for years and years and years, there were 3 guys, maybe 4, you could argue, if you wanted to put Zdeno Chara into the mix. It was in no particular order,
Right.
Paul Pierce, David Ortiz, Tom Brady, and Zdeno Chara. Those were really the four athletic constants. Pierce obviously being traded a couple of years ago. Now Ortiz starting to fall off. It is. I think that's a great point to bring up, that Brady has to start thinking, and we've asked about this in the past. There's been a lot written about this in the past. Has to start thinking about his athletic mortality sooner rather than later. So yeah, I do. I think it was. I think the two share a really unique friendship in that they have experienced things and know things that we could only dream about.
It's funny you mentioned Zdeno Chara because in looking this up, Tom Brady is really in a class with only two other current active Boston athletes who have been around as long as he has here in the New England scene. One, of course, is David Ortiz, and the other, not Chara, but Patrice Bergeron. His Bruins career began back in 2003, and that's it. That triumvirate has been around for a good better part of a decade and a half now, and obviously all of them have left their championship mark here in New England and in Boston. We'll have complete coverage on WEEI.com of the Monday night showdown between the Buffalo Bills, Rex Ryan coming to town, and the 9-0 New England Patriots looking to go to 10-0. Of course, Christopher Price and yours truly will be also on the scene providing you full coverage. Inside Gillette Stadium, he is Christopher Price. I'm Mike Petraglia, WEEI.com.